Ingham, just north of Bury, and I had three situations which seemed very difficult to deal with. And in each case, I ended up by saying there must be something better for this person than the service that they're getting. One was a wealthy farmer who had to be taken into hospital. They sorted him out, sent him home, and you watched him sadly going down and down again. Another one was somebody in a council house with a disabled husband who had to carry everything upstairs for her, and she reached a stage where she began to feel very hot, and so they had to have the windows open, and it was winter. And I went to visit her and I sat with my coat collar up because there was such a draft coming in as far as I was concerned. That there must be something better for people who are like this. And then the old rectory at Ingham came onto the market. And I thought that would make a hospice. I didn't really know much about hospices, but I just had the thought and I did nothing about it. And I'd heard it was sold, and I then felt incredibly guilty. I felt as though God was kicking me round the room saying, Richard, you've missed your opportunity. You ought to be doing something. But God is so good because a couple of weeks later, the house was back on the market. And I said, right, Lord, I'll try and do something this time. So I started talking to some of my friends and colleagues in the church and in the area. And they said, well, why don't you go talk to the bishop? And I was rural dean at the time. And therefore I saw the bishop fairly often. So I rang up and said, can I come over and see you? And I drove to Ipswich. I didn't tell him why I was coming. And as I drove there, I felt he's going to say, don't be silly. You can't start raising all that sort of money. It's not going to work. Forget it. But I told him the story, including the guilt bit. And he said straight away, I know just the place for you to go and look at. And he sent me and put me in touch with Whittingham in Staffordshire. He'd been Bishop of Stafford before he came to us. And they were building a hospice round an old rectory. And Joyce, my wife, and I went over to see it, and it was absolute confirmation. This was what was needed and what had to be done. So I came back and again talked to people, got people together, and it all began from there. And we saw this as the opportunity to reach out to people in the community in need, whoever they were, that here was something that could be done to help them and support them at a very difficult time.
Brilliant.